things.
Stand
So
by.
we'll
Let's
see.
listen. Let's listen to the president.
I assume. What do you think? Maybe. I hope so. Well, thank you all for being here. We're doing a lot of things. A lot of things are happening. Attorney General Jeff Sessions, Secretary Alex Azar, who is really setting the world on fire now, with your lowering of prescription drug prices and a lot of other things you're doing, and we appreciate it very much. A lot of people are seeing it already, what's happening, and especially the lowering of the price of health care. We see what's going on there. It's going to be a tremendous reduction in health care pricing because of what we're all doing together. So great going, Alex. And Secretary Betsy DeVos for joining us. Today we're here with state and local leaders, law enforcement officers, and education officials to discuss how we can make our schools safe and our communities secure. And no better time to discuss it than right now. And I think we're making a lot of progress, and I can tell you there's a tremendous feeling that we want to get something done. And we're leading that feeling, I hope. But there's a great feeling, including at the NRA, including with Republican senators and hopefully Democrat senators and congressmen. I want to thank Curtis Hill for being here, Attorney General. I also want to thank a really tremendous Attorney General, that's Pam Bondi from Florida, for being here. Thank you, Pam, very much. Great job you've done there. Yesterday I met with survivors of Parkland shooting. The Parkland shooting is just horrible. So bad for so many people and so bad for our country. Families who have lost their children in school shootings and local community members of Washington, D.C. who want to make sure that every child is safe at school. Having a lot of problems in Washington, D.C. I listened to their heartbreaking stories, asked them for their ideas, and pledged to them that we will take action, unlike for many years where people sitting in my position did not take action. They didn't take proper action. They took no action at all. We're going to take action. Today, we want to hear from you on how we can improve physical security in our schools, tackle the issue of mental health, which is a very big issue. This person that was caught after having killed so many people, 17, and badly injuring so many others. People don't talk about the injured, and they have to go through life with that horrible, horrible situation that they were put in unnecessarily. People don't talk about that. The people that are so badly, I visited them in the hospital in Broward County, and these are injuries like people wouldn't believe. And we want to ensure that when we see warning signs, we act quickly. When we have somebody that's mentally unstable, or like this guy that was a sicko, and there was a lot of warning signs. A lot of people were calling saying, hey, he's going to do something bad. People have to act. As I said last week, we must work together to create a culture of our country that cherishes life and fosters real human connections. We're also working to reduce violent crime in America and to make our communities places that can be totally safe for our children, for our families. Under my administration, gun prosecutions have increased very significantly. The Attorney General is very, very much after that, and we're also after the gangs. The gangs have been incredible. MS-13, I see where a couple of commentators that are lightweights said, oh, MS-13, who talks about that? That's only talked about on Fox. No, that's not talked about on Fox. That's talked about in communities where they're killing people. Not necessarily with guns, because that's not painful enough. This is what they think. They want to do it more painfully, and they want to do it slowly. So they cut them up with knives. They don't use guns, they use knives, because they want it to be a long, painful death to people that had no idea this was coming. And we're getting them out by the thousands, putting them in jail, and we're getting them out by the thousands. And our people from ICE and our Border Patrol people are much tougher than they are. That's the only thing they understand, by the way, is toughness. They don't understand niceness. They understand toughness. And our people are much tougher. They go in there, they grab them by the neck. There's no games being played. And I let them know that's what we want. We need tougher people than they are. And our people are a lot tougher than they are. So we're working on getting violent offenders off the streets and guns out of the hands of the dangerous criminals. There's nothing more important than protecting our children. We had a really incredible meeting yesterday with some of the families that have suffered so gravely in different places, not only in Florida. As you know, Columbine, and it was a very sad situation. But I will tell you, background checks, I've called many senators last night, many congressmen, and Jeff and Pam and everybody in this room. I can tell you, Curtis, they're into doing background checks that they wouldn't be thinking about maybe 2 weeks ago. We're going to do strong background checks. We're going to work on getting the age up to 21 instead of 18. We're getting rid of the bump stocks, and we're going to be focusing very strongly on mental health, because here's a case of mental health. Part of the problem is we used to have mental institutions, and I said this yesterday. We had a mental institution where you take a sicko like this guy. He was a sick guy, so many signs, and you'd bring him to a mental health institution. Those institutions are largely closed because communities didn't want them. Communities didn't want to spend the money for them. So you don't have any intermediate ground. You can't put him in jail because he hadn't done anything yet, but you know he's going to do something. So we're going to be talking seriously about opening mental health institutions again. In some cases, reopening. I can tell you in New York, the governors in New York did a very, very bad thing when they closed our mental institutions, so many of them. You have these people living on the streets, and I can say that in many cases throughout the country, they're very dangerous. They shouldn't be there. So we're going to be talking about mental institutions, and when you have some person like this, you can bring them into a mental institution, and they can see what they can do, but we got to get them out of our communities. So with that being said, I'd like to ask the very talented people around this table to just introduce themselves quickly and say a few words, and maybe we can start off with Pam Bondi. Pam, thank you.
I'm Pam Bondi. We've been listening to President Trump talking to state and local officials about his thoughts on safety in general. He talked to not just about school safety, not just about gun safety, but went to something that he has talked about for almost 3 years now since he was a candidate, which is immigration and gangs and that kind of thing. I want to bring it back around the table.